Welcome on in, everybody. It is Fighters Fury here on 790 The Ticket. Thank you so much for tuning on in. All right, we have it in the books. Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr. declared a draw by the WBC champions. The exhibition, it is in the books. And look, I don't want to be the guy that comes on the radio or behind a mic right after two 50-year-olds slug it out for 16 minutes and, do the obvious thing that says that sucked. I didn't feel like it sucked. I felt like I went into this thing with super low expectations, so I wasn't expecting to be dazzled. In all honesty, I think the thing that probably surprised me the most from this is I thought that it was going to be Mike Tyson being the one who was sucking wind a little bit more in the goings of this fight. I thought as it went on, I thought he was going to wilt away. I honestly came away with an impressed that he was in shape enough to do, 16 pretty hard minutes, trying to chase down Roy Jones Jr., throwing some body shots, and was doing all right. Again, you guys got to grade this stuff on a curve for anybody expecting that you were going to see in his prime, Kid Dynamite Mike Tyson, or, you almost forgot Roy Jones Jr. You're just not. Like, I look upon this and I think my wrestling fans will appreciate this. I look a lot of these types of things a lot like when a legendary wrestler comes back. When The Rock comes back to Raw, what do you want to see? You want to see him make a fool of somebody. You want to say, it doesn't matter what your name is. You want to see him hit a rock bottom and go home with the people's elbow and everybody's happy. And with this, I think you got a lot of nostalgia. I think you got to see, Roy Jones bust out, the no-look stuff, the dancing around. You got to see Mike Tyson do the bob and weave. Didn't get to see a lot of signature uppercuts. I mean, Mike Tyson did stay pretty good to the whole not trying to kill anybody part of the exhibition. I think this is probably where I divert on this. So I want to kind of mesh in between the main event and the co-main event for why I thought you maybe could have gotten a little bit better, but maybe it wouldn't have been, because ultimately tonight we didn't see the two legends hurt, which was good. Maybe they're a little bit tired. Yes, you definitely didn't see them have the same skill set that we've come to know from Roy Jones Jr. or Mike Tyson, but neither one of them left hurt that we know of. Nobody got knocked out cold. And I think that's what we were, maybe some people were looking for that. But in the co-main event, we did see somebody get knocked out cold. We saw Nate Robinson get absolutely hammered by Jake Paul. And it was after he got knocked down already twice in the goings of it. And the referee, for some reason, was giving Nate Robinson like 15 seconds to recover. He'd get knocked down. You get the standing 8 count. Okay, maybe you get there to 9. Okay, walk towards me. He couldn't even find his gloves or tell the referee what to do to check his gloves and make sure he was good to go. All right, goes to the first round. Then he does it again in the second round. You knew it was just inevitable. Nate looked in bad shape as he's letting him basically go, 10, 11, 12, 13. All right, are you good to go, Nate? Yeah, I'm good to go. And boom, he got knocked down, flatlined, and that's all she wrote for that. What I find weird is that we put ourselves in this predicament where Nate Robinson can go out there and get absolutely murked on his face. He's never been in a professional fight before, yet somehow we're more concerned for the two 50-year-olds who have more ring experience than most people walking the planet. Yes, they're a little bit older, but you would think that nature and science is going to take care of a little bit of the, shall we say, steam of what they're able to do to one another. So I just found that very odd that we're in this weird conundrum of, okay, we don't really care what happens to the guy who's actually never, with the California State Athletic Commission, we don't really care what happens to Nate Robinson. He turns into an instant meme. Everybody gets a laugh at poor Nate's expense. But as far as his brain functionality and him getting absolutely blasted by Jake Paul, who, laugh what you want of his career. I was at it. I was ringside for his first professional fight. He still has more ring experience and more boxing training experience than Nate Robinson does. And Nate Robinson was basically running at him with his chin up high, and you knew it was a matter of time. Yeah, he looked faster. He looked a little bit more athletic. Yes, he was still able to sneak that jab in from time to time, but you knew it was probably just a matter of time before something really bad was going to happen to him. It happened to him 3 times. Ultimately, one where it was really, really bad. So I just found it weird that we were in this spot where we had to protect Roy Jones and Mike Tyson, but not the guy who's never done it. That's strange to me. And that referee, I mean, good God. As far as the main event's concerned, you saw Roy, he was coming out with the dancing and the weaving early on. He was sticking and moving, but never really felt like he did anything to threaten Tyson. And they locked up a lot. Very big clash in styles. Tyson was going for the ribs a lot. Not a lot of head hunting. Not a lot of uppercuts. None of that signature Tyson stuff. It ultimately ended in a draw. I thought, in my own opinion, Tyson should have gotten the nod. Felt like he was pressing a lot of the action. I thought that he looked the sharper of the two as it ended. I thought in the middle, by the end of it, he's still calling for Roy to come at him. So I thought Tyson should have gotten the nod in this exhibition. It's his damn show anyway. Everybody's there to see Mike Tyson. That's the spectacle, and I imagine that we'd like to see, most people would like to go see him fight a trilogy against Evander Holyfield. That's probably what they should do, and even have Roy Jones as the co-main event fighting Anderson Silva. Those two have been talking about fighting each other forever. Let them do it. Let them have a load of fun. I didn't think that they embarrassed themselves. I've seen some Bellator MMA main events that, have teetered on that. Really, really embarrassing. It wasn't, Chuck Liddell versus Tito Ortiz 3. It wasn't at that level either. So, yeah, it was fun. I thought it was a fun night. Not one, not one that was like, it's not one I'm going to be telling my son about for sure. It's not one of the classics, but as far as a Saturday night is what it is, nothing to really compete against other than a UFC card that we'll get a little bit into. It was what it was. It was what it was. And I thought that for Mike, I thought it was a good show because I really thought, like, when they were talking about this, and I heard some interviews where Mike, and it's probably the smartest move by me because Mike can be very sporadic on interviews. But I heard him on Rogan at one point, and he was like, "Oh yeah, after that video, the viral video that really kind of sparked the comeback talk, he said that he was in bed for a week." And I just thought, like, yeah, well, he's 50. Unless he's like on the greatest testosterone, HGH, steroid concoction that is known to man, there's still going to be some aches and bruises, and it's going to be tough for him to dial back the clock that much. But I think I'm sure the shortened time helped. The 2 minutes was very noticeable. The first thing that I spotted in this was, man, that was a tiny ring. I mean, Roy had nowhere to go. So they really did tailor it to Mike and his style. But he's the show pony there. Like, he's the guy everybody's there to see. Roy Jones, if you wanted to see Roy Jones fight, Roy Jones was just fighting a couple of years ago, and people weren't tuning in to watch him like that. Mike Tyson has always been the spectacle, has always been the cash cow, even more so even when Roy was in his prime. Roy didn't get the appreciation that he probably deserved. But I thought that it was fun. I really like it. That's what I come away with it. I just had a good time seeing these guys go about their business and seeing them back in the ring and move. And it felt very WWE-ish, but I don't mean that as an insult. I mean, like, it was cool nostalgia. It was like the Royal Rumble. Burr, 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 burr. Oh my gosh, here comes, here comes Stone Cold Steve Austin. Boom, he goes and gives everybody a stunners, middle fingers, the beer thing, and then whoop, he's out. So that's what I kind of equated to. with what went down and what we got out of that. I think that's the thing. So, most people are going to say, Mike Tyson, what should he do next? Fight Evander Holyfield. I'd imagine that's where most people would go with this. But I would personally like to see him fight Shannon Briggs. There was some talk of that before. Remember the OG comeback that seemed like it had a serious negotiation on the table was Shannon Briggs versus Mike Tyson. And that whole thing blew up for stupid reasons, really. I mean, it was, the BKFC thought that Mike Tyson, that Shannon got a little bit too forward on social media, which is what he does. But the other thing with him is I think that Shannon has an unbelievable ability to be able to be the bad guy, where we're in this world of all these old time boxers. It's kind of hard to find somebody to root against. And I think outside of me, everybody would be rooting against Shannon because he would poke the bear. He'd be able to know where to, how to antagonize Mike Tyson. He's not afraid to mix it up like that. So I think that'd be a lot of fun. Two Brooklyn legends. But Mike's got a lot of options. I certainly think this League of Legends or whatever the hell he's going to do, if he does this, twice a year, the numbers were all over the place as far as what he was going to make for this. But, let's just say he made $10 million. Yeah, there's no reason I don't think Mike could do this a couple of more times. I don't know how many more he could do this for people to go. I think he would almost have to go the realm of like Jake Paul, where he'd have to fight some freak show. Like he'd have to fight, damn Hulk Hogan or something crazy like that. Obviously not Hulk Hogan. That would end terribly for Hulk Hogan, but he'd have to fight. I think Holyfield's the obvious one. I think Shannon would be a big money fight for him. Lennox they could do again if Lennox really wanted to dial it back. All those old time heavyweight greats. So Riddick Bowe's got a little bit too much, damage up top. I wouldn't put Riddick Bowe in there, but in that ilk, or maybe you go and you find him, some MMA fighter that's a little bit past their prime. Maybe you do it with a Tito Ortiz, or you do it with somebody who's in that kind of age range, just older MMA guy that could be kind of a freak cross show. Mike's been kind of in the UFC world for a while now, where it would make sense for him to dip his toe in that water. But ultimately, yeah, I think it's stupid that it was a draw. I think that Mike won the fight, and I love Roy. I picked Roy to win. But I was off. Like I thought that Roy would be in better shape. And the one thing that was interesting with this is Roy didn't really, how should I say this? Roy didn't really hide the fact about how disgruntled he was about how this whole deal kind of went down. Like he was upset with the fact that it got punted down a few months. He was upset that the dates remain a mystery. He was upset with the money. Upset with the rules kind of getting molded to benefit Mike. So in that regard, for the WBC judges, former champs, to declare it a draw probably is good for him. And I know that, maybe he wants to. The idea there's no point running that. It's an exhibition. He's not going to get the win in Tyson on the record books anyway. I think that he should go do the Anderson Silva fight. Makes so much sense in that those guys have been talking about it forever. Anderson has a lot of those Roy Jones qualities. It just makes a lot of sense. I think it's a home. I think you do it on the same card. Put Roy and Anderson on the same card as Evander and Mike, or Evander and or Mike and Shannon, whatever that next matchup is for Mike Tyson. And I think it'll still do really, really well. I think it'll do really well. And then maybe if they could talk it up a little bit more, maybe winners go out and fight the winners, something like that. I think that would be the way to go about it.